This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Today we're talking with Dr. Brad Marshall. He's an Australian psychologist, researcher, and author who has worked for more than 2 decades with young people and families affected by screen overuse and technology dependence. He is known internationally as the Unplugged Psychologist, director for the Screens and Gaming Disorder Clinic in Sydney, Australia. Dr. Marshall is the co-author of Do Not Disturb. Now, for my international listeners, the name of this book outside the U.S. is How to Say No to Your Phone. How does your advice differ from all the other phone detox advice that seems to be rolling around the internet right now?
Yeah, thanks very much, Vicki, for having me. It's great to be here. I think that the way that my advice differs is just given to my background. So that is, I've been working with kids and families in screen addiction and gaming addiction, phone addiction. That term addiction, sort of 10 or 15 years ago, people would get very angry at me for using that. But now we all accept that it can get to that level in some kids. Because of my clinical background, I've seen over 2,500 families in my clinic from around the world. And so this comes from a practical sense. Many people can think in an academic way or in theoretical ways of, just take that device from your teenager. But I've been there and I've done that with all of these families, and I've trialed all of these techniques as to what works. And then on top of that, in the last 5 years in my research lab at Macquarie University in Sydney here, we've evidence-based all of the techniques that are in this book. That's a short answer as to how this is different, because in a practical sense, these are things that we know actually work.
So, there's some interesting statistics that I was digging into to prepare for today. There's a significant association between 4+ hours of daily screen time and symptoms of anxiety and depression. Common Sense Media says that kids in the U.S. pick up their phones 72 times a day. They use their phones 43 minutes during school on the average. Now, some of us, like my school, have banned phones, which has been great. But they receive a median of 237 notifications a day. Teens say they're afraid of missing out, but they also want boundaries. And educators and parents want to empower kids, not restrict them. You really talk about a no-judgment approach. How do we start from a no-judgment approach? Because when I hear these numbers, this is not what being a teenager or a tweenager should be,
I want to be really clear. I am all for boundaries. And in fact, all of my research papers and books are around the effective way to in place boundaries and safeguards in this. But what comes with that is that we have to have that non-judgmental approach with our teens and tweens. And what it ultimately boils down to, Vicki, is we failed our kids. Everyone in this field and everyone who didn't act, we failed them. One of my biggest regrets in my career, I gave testimony to the Australian Parliament inquiries into the social media bans, which we are rolling out in Australia for under 16s in December. I gave testimony to that Senate inquiry in Australia, and I said exactly that. We are at fault here. We all complain kids are on their phones too much and the impact it is on mental health. But number one, we allowed that to happen. That was on our watch. Number two, we have systematically gone about reducing their options outside of screens. We shut down their sporting fields. We stop them from being in communities. We stop them from going outside. And then we wonder why they're inside so much on screens. It has to be a non-judgmental approach from my perspective, because we're at fault.
I have to admit, I was in the cell phone business. My first job out of college, 91 to 94, I was the general manager. And people kept saying, I want to get my kids phones for safety. Those days you couldn't text, you couldn't do anything. Yeah, it made some sense. In a rural area here, having a flat tire, getting stuck in a ditch is a real issue. Now it almost feels like the safest kids who are the ones who don't have phones. That should bother us. Like, what do we do if we've already bought our child phones and we're like, okay, this is not going the right direction? How do you advise parents? What do they do that fits with your evidence-based approach?
In Australia, we are leading the world on this in many different facets. We banned phones 2 years ago in schools, every school. And we saw at the time that the lobbyists from the tech industries were very up in arms about that. All these terrible outcomes are going to happen. Well, hey, guess what? All of the evidence says that was beneficial. Teachers tell us that kids are actually listening more.
Kids say, I enjoy lunch. The older kids talk to me. I have more friends. I do more outside of school now, so I'm using my phone less because I'm actually making human connections instead of walking down the hall with my nose in my phone. So, absolutely, I am a big fan of the ban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, there are many, many steps that we've proven in the research lab and in my books. But if I give one specific to phones, because we're talking about Do Not Disturb, the book, ultimately what it boils down to is one of the things you can do to protect your kids is limit their amount of cell phone data. Now, what I mean by this is most families will have tried to use software parental controls on their child's phone, and most of them will have figured out they don't work. And the reason they don't work is quite simply because that is the tech companies self-regulating. It is not in their best interests for that to work. Unfortunately, what we had to do for parents is really apply the handbrake rule here. So the handbrake rule is if you only have 5 to 10 gigabytes of data, you're going to use that very sparingly. And you can still talk and text, of course, right? But the cell phone companies make this very difficult around the world because they continue to increase the data plans. So it's becoming
Mm.
more and more tricky for parents.
What is a practical first step for a teen or a tween who feels like they're too far gone in their cell phone use?
As a first point, it's fantastic when you hear a teen or tween actually recognize that. But what we should warn the educators and the parents out there is that sometimes that insight comes and goes. You might have them acknowledge that, but then a day later they back away from it. And that's a classic sort of addiction model anyway. But what I would say is that any teen or tween in my clinic that has acknowledged that, what I'm trying to do is build on that motivation and talk about the areas of life that it's impacting. Is it impacting friendships, relationships with mum and dad or family? Is it impacting sleep? Is it impacting sport? There is a whole range of areas that excessive phone use and screen use impacts. And what we do from there is we talk about the psychological science behind it. So we talk
Mm.
about in a very illustrated version here, and this is why it's a good parent-child read as well. We talk about the areas that it impacts, but also about the persuasive design that tech companies use to hook you in to spend more time on that phone because it moves the child or the teen and tween away from feeling like I'm the problem into actually you're the victim of this. And we all are as adults as well, by the way, because this is predatory behavior from the algorithms and the persuasive design. It is meant to do this. So don't feel like a failure if you're spending too much time on your phone because ultimately it is doing exactly what it is designed to do.
What roles do schools and families play in shaping better tech habits with our teens? I mean, I'm getting ready to help lead a session with parents next week on this very topic. So I'm saying, what message can I give parents and what do we say?
There's so many messages. If I just have to pick a few here, the number one issue that I've seen in my clinic is sleep. When screens and phones impact sleep, everything will go downhill very quickly. All of the developmental and psychological impacts snowball is what and I talk about this in my 2019 book, The Tech Diet for Your Child and Teen, which is a parenting book. As parents and as educators, we do have a role to put healthy boundaries around this. Why? Not because I'm trying to treat children and teens like they don't have any agency and they shouldn't have any say,
Hmm.
but quite simply, the brain is developing at that age, as we know. I mean, the areas of the brain, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, they don't fully develop for females in their early 20s, males late 20s. So this idea that they should be able to self-regulate their phone use by age 12, 14, 16 is neurologically ridiculous. And
Yes.
that is akin to me giving like a 12 or 14-year-old a six-pack of beer and a set of car keys and hoping they don't crash. They're going to make
Mhm.
some poor decisions. I did that when I was in my teenage years. I'm sure you did too, Vicky, right? So again, that rhetoric of self-regulation of tech use, it's a technological world. We all need to help our kids self-regulate their tech use. I would put it to you that that is probably a marketing ploy by technology lobbyists because there's no science in that. So we have to really help educators and parents understand that self-regulation is something that most kids are not going to be able to achieve.
That is just so spot on. I'm ready to get your book. Thank you for bringing both of these issues to the forefront. It's encouraging to know that there are people studying it and that parents can have hope. So, Dr. Brad Marshall, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Vicki.
Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.